Ushers, close the doors. Close the doors. Close the doors. We all gonna leave together. Y'all ain't going no place but to the restaurant. There's 1,000 of you tonight, and those that are watching.
You know, people have created a narrative that is absolutely not true. Number one, the narrative was created, excuse me, that I raised money at my church, that I kept the people at my church hostage until I raised $40,000.
$40,000. What do you get when you combine cheating scandals, fake miracles, manipulation, and the mysterious disappearance of a woman who later turns up dead? You get Marvin Sapp, gospel singer extraordinaire and founder of one of the biggest churches in the country. Well, at least according to this churchgoer who recently spilled all the tea about how Marvin Sapp is as fake as they come. This churchgoer apparently has receipts proving how Marvin Sapp has been scamming his congregation for years. Not only that, but apparently he also faked his calling and has been deceiving people into believing he's a man of God when he's only in the business of evangelism for the money. Marvin Sapp allegedly also manipulates and guilt-trips his congregation into making huge donations for certain community projects. But those projects never see the light of day. The more that gets exposed about this guy, the shadier he looks. And trust me, y'all are not ready for this one. So Marvin Sapp has been making the news round lately after some of his, let's just say, interesting practices in his church came to light. I'm talking about the videos of him commanding his congregation to donate money to the church that has been going viral lately. "There's 1,000 of you," he said. "Close them doors, ushers, close the doors, close the doors, close the doors. This is a fundraiser. Shield the exits. Thank you. Thank you. Come on, hurry up. All right, now let's empty our pockets. Make me Professor Rocco, Chancellor Knuckles. Okay, all right, okay, get every dime." But apparently that little video we saw does not begin to describe the level of shoddiness that goes on behind closed doors. And it's not just any random person talking about this. It is people who actually have a front seat to everything Marvin does. Insiders from his own flock. But what's interesting is how these videos open the floodgates for members of his congregation to come forward with stories of how shady Marvin Sapp is. But before we get into all that, let's talk about how one Marvin Sapp became one of the biggest gospel singers of his generation. Marvin had a pretty rough childhood. His parents divorced when he was pretty young, and that seriously messed him up. By 12, he was smoking different substances, and by 16, he was drinking and popping pills. However, his life finally turned around and he started his gospel music career. It didn't take long for him to become a household name in the gospel community. In 2007, he hit his big break with the release of Never Would Have Made It, a song inspired by the loss of his father, Reverend Henry Louis Sapp. The song went on to top charts and earned him widespread recognition. As his gospel music career skyrocketed, his ministry also started gaining ground. He founded the pastor of Lighthouse Full Life Center Church in Grand Rapids, Michigan. In September 2010, Marvin tragically lost his wife of 18 years, Melinda Sapp, to colon cancer. It was a devastating loss, not just for Marvin and his kids, but also for their followers, because Melinda was a very important part of Marvin's ministry. Marvin struggled to fit into his new role as a single father to the kids he shared with Melinda. He poured his pain into his ministry and music career, which paid off in recognition and money. However, it didn't take long before questions started surfacing about how he handled the tragedy of losing his wife. There were rumors that he solicited funds from his congregation when his wife was ill under the guise of medical expenses and church growth. It's not like it's unusual for pastors to receive financial or other support from their congregation, but with Marvin, rumors started surfacing that he was exploiting his followers' sympathy and using that as an excuse to milk them dry, a recurring theme in Marvin Sapp's story. Things got even more suspicious after church officials started selling the program from Melinda's funeral for $10 each. It seemed like an obvious money grab, and people weren't here for it, especially because people noticed how quick Marvin returned to the studio and the pulpit, as if his morning had taken a back seat. Fast forward to 2013, and Marvin found himself in the middle of another scandal involving a woman named Dr. Telika Patrick, a 30-year-old medical resident who mysteriously vanished. Telika Patrick disappeared on the night of December 5, 2013. According to a private investigator hired by her family, she had reported feeling unsafe just before she disappeared. You're looking at newly discovered surveillance images of Dr. Telika Patrick inside the Radisson Hotel in Kalamazoo, Michigan, from December 6, the night she mysteriously vanished. The 30-year-old doctor is at the desk clerk trying to book a room with cash and appears to be in a rush. After being turned away, Patrick uses the hotel shuttle to take her to her car, located at the Borges Hospital where she worked in downtown Kalamazoo. 2 hours later, her car is found abandoned in a ditch off I-94, more than 100 miles away from the hospital in Kalamazoo, with her wallet still inside. The last person to see her, the shuttle bus driver, told investigators that Patrick seemed agitated. She seemed as if she was looking around, as if someone could be following her. But here's where it gets scary. Telika had been contacting Marvin obsessively for months before she went missing, and she allegedly believed they were in some sort of romantic relationship. Marvin later revealed that she had been sending him mail and voice messages and even attending his church just to get in contact with him. He even claimed she went to his house uninvited and spoke with his 3 kids. Marvin claimed he never responded to any of her attempts to get in contact with him and even filed a restraining order against her. The next page in a bizarre and disturbing story, a pastor's P.O., perhaps an answer to the questions some have asked, including Telika Patrick's ex-husband, during an exclusive interview with us in California, where the couple once lived together. When I found out she went to Michigan, you got to ask yourself, why did she go to Michigan? Before she made the far eastward trek to West Michigan, in a personal protection order filing, gospel singer and pastor Marvin Sapp says she began contacting him and then things ramped up. Quote, "She has moved from California to Michigan, joined my church, contacts my children, and has been to my home," he wrote. "I'm a national recording artist who she has claimed as her husband." However, a lot of people didn't buy that story. It seemed like he was trying to make it sound like he didn't know her at all, and she was just some crazy woman who was obsessed with him. But some people felt like he was probably hiding something, like his real relationship with her. But then the case took a darker turn, as 4 months after she disappeared, Telika's body was found in Lake Charles, Indiana. She had drowned and her car had been abandoned. Officials ruled her death an accident, but there were a lot of questions. This was not the answer anyone wanted. Investigators are certain the body found in an Indiana lake is that of Telika Patrick. That's right. 24-hour News 8's Joel Lear is here now with how investigators were finally able to make this positive ID. Joel? Yeah, car keys, cash, and a pager helped determine the body was that of Dr. Telika Patrick. The answer to all the questions surrounding her disappearance may never be answered. Marvin especially faced some serious scrutiny, as people wondered what role he played in her demise. Was there more to their relationship than he was letting on? Did his rejection cause her to end things? Did he really not know her at all? And even if he didn't, why didn't he reach out and try to help a woman who clearly needed help with her mental health? Isn't that what a pastor who preaches love and compassion is supposed to do? The whole thing eventually died down, but that wasn't the last time Marvin Sapp was caught in the middle of a scandal. In 2014, Candy Burris from The Real Housewives of Atlanta released a gospel song called "Stay Prayed Up," featuring none other than beloved Pastor Marvin Sapp singing the hell out of it. Well, if Marvin Sapp is going to be on a song with me, I got to really show him I can sing a little. This wouldn't have been a problematic collaboration if not for the fact that Candy was the host of a raunchy online show, Candy Coated Nights, and owned a line of intimate toys. She faced a lot of backlash, with people calling her a hypocrite, and Marvin got dragged into the mix. People questioned why he would collaborate with her despite knowing about her lifestyle, and some speculated that he was trying to profit from her reality TV fame, and was compromising his values for money. Marvin saw all the backlash and dropped this weird explanation. Compromise was never done here, nor do I condone her lifestyle or life choices. And keeping it 100, you don't know the off-camera conversation we had. But that was nothing compared to the next problematic collaboration he did. In 2017, fans were shocked when Marvin popped out with a new gospel song featuring, of all people, R. Kelly. The song was titled Listen and was part of his 11th studio album, Close. The public reaction was swift and brutal. Why would a supposed man of God produce a song with a known predator who takes advantage of children? But guess what? Marvin wasn't sorry. If anything, he doubled down. And even used the Bible to defend himself. He quoted Galatians 6 verse 1, which preaches that those who are spiritual aren't supposed to cast stones, but allow God's grace to lead. And that's fair enough. But how is it that, of all the artists in the world, the only one he could collaborate with was one that was a known predator? Marvin even claimed he was not aware of the rumors surrounding R. Kelly at the time the song was recorded, which didn't make sense because the rumors had been around for a long time. It seemed obvious that R. Kelly was trying to use the church to whitewash himself, and Marvin Sapp was giving him the platform to do that. It also made a lot of people question whether Marvin Sapp was more interested in making a bag than in doing the Lord's work. In recent times, people have started giving Marvin Sapp the side-eye because there's just too many shady incidents surrounding him and his ministry for it all to be a coincidence. For example, some videos recently resurfaced showing Marvin telling the ushers at a convention to close the doors so nobody could leave while he was trying to raise $40,000. Marvin had been preaching at the 109th Pentecostal Assemblies of the World Convention in Baltimore, Maryland. Towards the end of his sermon, he talked about how he had to pay $2,000 to renew his ordination and licensing. He also talked about the cost of leadership and how he had to lead by example. Leaders lead in time, talent, and treasure. I was taught a long time ago that it costs to sit up here. Y'all don't like me, y'all don't like me. I don't mind telling you I was 2 years behind. I had to pay $2,000 to get my ordination and my licensing renewed. I pulled out my credit card, I paid my $2,000. How in the world I'm going to preach up here and not lead by example? He asked me to give $800. Went in my pocket, gave $800 because leadership lead and they understand the cost that is involved. Next thing we know, he's telling the ushers to close the door. Multiple times he literally told the congregation that nobody was leaving until they had each donated at least $20 or $100. We all going to leave together. Y'all ain't going no place but to the restaurant. There's 1,000 of you tonight, and those that are watching, it's 1,000 that's watching online. This is a small seed. If I get 1,000 online to give this, if I get 1,000 in the sanctuary to give this, that's $40,000. Tonight I'm challenging each of you all down here to give a $20 seed. I used to think $20 was a lot of money. $20, believe it or not, when my late wife Melinda Papp was alive, was a good date. I could take her to the movies, buy a box of popcorn, get 1 soda, 2 straws. I wasn't cheap, that's swag. I was looking in her eyes, she's looking in mine. Can't do that no more. The whole scene left people confused because it wasn't adding up. What did having to renew his license have to do with leading by example? And why is that the congregation's problem? Nobody asked him to become a minister, so it's not clear what point he was trying to make there. Also, what did it have to do with people donating to the church? Why are people being forced to donate just because they have to pay $2,000? Don't get me wrong, it's okay for people to donate to spread the word or for welfare programs to uplift the community, but it rubbed people off the wrong way because it seemed like he told the whole paying $2,000 thing to manipulate them into donating. Marvin faced serious backlash after this video went viral and people started accusing him of holding the congregation hostage, manipulating them to part with their money, and profiting off people's faith. In response, he took to his Facebook page to tell everyone his side of the story. He explained that he asked the ushers to close the doors to keep everyone safe, prevent the donation process from getting rowdy, and so on. he said. Some have taken issue with a particular moment when I instructed the ushers rather firmly to close the doors during the offering. To those unfamiliar with the church context, or who may not regularly attend worship gatherings, this has been misinterpreted as holding people hostage as well as offensive. That was never my intention. Did anyone else catch the subtle shade there? Like, oh, those complaining are people who don't go to church, so they don't know how we do things over there. Marvin continued, the truth is when finances are being received in any worship gathering, it is one of the most vulnerable and exposed times for both the finance and security teams. Movement during this sacred exchange can be distracting and at times even risky. My directive was not about control. It was about creating a safe, focused, and reverent environment for those choosing to give and for those handling the resources. However, a lot of people felt like the statement was condescending and he said a whole bunch of nothing. It did nothing to stop Marvin and his church from facing backlash, with the internet going wild with different memes about the whole situation. The backlash was so serious that Marvin started receiving threats. Yep, you heard that right. During an appearance on the Ricky Smiley Morning Show, he tried to set the record straight on what really happened that day. You know, I thank you for the opportunity to be able to come on your show and for you to use your platform to give me a chance to just, add, a clip that, a whole lot of people have seen, sadly. One of the things that has happened is, people have created a narrative that is absolutely not true. Number one, the narrative was created, that I raised money at my church, that I kept the people at my church hostage until I raised $40,000 for me. That's the narrative that has been shared, that I lock folks up at my church, that, I made them give $40,000 and I wouldn't allow them to leave until they gave it to me. And to be honest with you, that is absolutely false. However, a lot of people felt like he only made it worse because he said it was all a misunderstanding. Like you asking the ushers to lock your congregation inside the church was a mistake? Okay, bro. According to Marvin, he just got a little too passionate and was a little more assertive than he should have been. Understand, I never said, lock the doors. I said, shut the doors. Shutting doors means that people still have the ability to go in and out. They've taken issue with my tone, and I can honestly say, looking at the video, maybe I was a little more assertive than I should have been. And I can apologize for that. I can apologize for that. Then he revealed that he, his kids, and his staff have been living in fear because of the threats they've been receiving. But that's not all. He added that people have been showing up at the church and campus trying to start something because of all the backlash. He says he now has to beef up security so his kids won't be afraid to leave the house. Here's the reason why I'm here. The reason why I'm here is because what has happened is people have taken clickbait and made something out of it that it isn't. And because of that, my church has been getting phone calls. People have called my church and cussed me out. My staff are afraid because I've received death threats over $20 and shut the door. People have come to our campus, they have come to my church to try to cause problems, issues, challenges. And again, my children, I don't look at comments. We talking about this. I don't read comments. When you got millions of followers, you ain't got time to be reading all the comments. You just don't have it, right? My children do, and they are afraid. And the reason being is 'cause I'm their only parent. I'm a widower, They're afraid for my safety. So now we've had to update and increase security and all the things I've never had to do before because of the vitriol and the anger that people have shown, the things that they've said in my thread and stuff. And all of this is because of a misunderstanding. While a lot of people were empathizing with Marvin, others felt like he was milking this situation to gather sympathy for himself and make people forget how insane it is that he literally forced his congregation to donate. People have also talked about how this is a pattern for Marvin. Every time something shady comes out about his church, he plays some kind of sympathy card to get people to forget the real issue. This time he's playing the "I'm a widower and single father" card, but folks aren't buying it. They're demanding answers, And it looks like Marvin is going to have to say something more solid then. That's just how I do things as a widowed man of God. But what are your thoughts on Marvin Sapp's weird behavior? Do you think he needs to account for all his shady dealings? Sound off in the comments, and stick around for this next video.